Welcome to the Rise podcast. It's Kwesi Millington here, and my guest today is Pauly Plewa. If I'm not saying your last name right, I've known you for a while, and apologies if I did not get it right. But I think that I'm pretty close. Let me know. Is that
Pretty
right?
close. Pauly Plewa. Nice
Pauly
and simple.
Pauly Plewa. And I
Correct.
should know this because we worked together on a TED Talk that you did, and it was an awesome TED Talk. Standing ovation. Congrats to you. Pauly is a race car driver, a speaker, person living with a disability. I'm not going to get too much into the intro because he's going to explain it to us, and he has a remarkable story that we're going to go into, and it's an ongoing story about resilience and how to rise above even when you have the worst of challenges. So, Pauly, welcome. Thank you for joining me and agreeing to be on the podcast.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Gracie, for this opportunity. It's been about a year and a half now since we worked together on the TED Talk. So it's beautiful. I'm happy to see you. I'm happy to see that smile and obviously to be involved in this beautiful project that you're doing here.
Oh yeah, no, not a problem at all. And like I said, thank you for being on. Thank you for trusting me with your TED Talk because it was your first TED Talk. TED is an internationally known organization, and there's a lot of pressure that goes into producing a TED Talk. So
There
I'm
sure
grateful
was.
that you trusted me to be your speaking coach for that.
Yeah.
Um,
It was a
I
it
know
was
your
a
story.
it was a great experience. Honestly, I learned so much. You're such a great teacher. You're an inspiration yourself, and so you made the whole event much more enjoyable. You made it so much more worthwhile as well. And obviously, just being able to share my story, how I envisioned it, how I wanted to share it, with the help and the guidance of yourself. I mean, it made the event so much better, honestly. So thank you for your help.
Awesome. And obviously, the crowd got a lot out of it, standing ovations, pictures, opportunities that came out of that. For those who don't know, those who don't haven't watched the TED Talk, first of all, tell me the title of the TED Talk so that people can go online and look it up. And then, secondly, take me back, and let us know. Okay, what happened? What's your story of resilience?
Awesome. So it was the TEDx McMaster U, and it was Envision Your Future Self, and my name, Pauly Plewa. So if you want to check it out on YouTube, please do. Much appreciated. Give it a thumbs up if you can. But my story, Kwesi, it all started when I was 6 years old. 6 years old. My dad got me my first motorcycle. He was an adrenaline junkie, a motorcycle racer, a cyclist, an automotive builder and racer as well. So when I was 6 years old, he came across these little tiny motorcycles, bought me my first bike. And ever since that first day, I was hooked. Immediately, we went to the closest racetrack the next weekend. We got signed up for the first race, and that's how sort of my whole life journey began. I was almost, I was blended on with two wheels. So I raced locally here in Ontario, racing across the province, eventually getting to race on the national stage across Canada. But as you're well aware, everything is bigger in the States. If the Americans, they'll take golf cart racing, they'll take tractor pulling, they'll just take everything to the next stage. So we went and started racing in the States, competing all across the US. And in 2012, I was one race away from making my US professional debut. I qualified to the Junior World Championships in Las Vegas as only one of two Canadians, and I was so close to achieving my childhood dream. But unfortunately, a month before going to Vegas, I had a bad crash. I ended up breaking my back. I ended up suffering a T5, incomplete spinal cord injury, a traumatic brain injury. I was bleeding out of my nose, mouth, and ears. I wasn't breathing when the medics found me, and I required immediate spinal surgery. So basically, after the surgery, my injury, I got airlifted to the hospital. I underwent surgery, and the doctors came to me and they told me that I had less than 2% chance of recovering any sensation or function from my chest down. So I lost all bladder and bowel function. I lost the feeling of hunger and thirst. That's more traumatic brain injury side versus the spinal cord injury side. And of course, I lost all feeling and sensation. So it was a pretty bleak moment and a pretty harsh turnaround. I was at the highest of highs in my life, in my career, and then all of a sudden I was at the lowest of lows.
Hmm. And so go back to you said your doctor said you had a 2% chance of walking again or all
Uh,
functions.
just any sensation or functions. I know, the traditional thing with spinal cord injury with paralysis, everybody says, oh, you just lose the ability to walk. That's as far as it goes. You can't walk, you can do everything else. But feeling anything, there's obviously all the muscle spasticity, there's the nerve pain, there's tone, clonus, there's hypersensitivity as well. I mean, one of the big things is, even to this day, you could be just pushing on a part of my leg or on a part of my torso and with your finger, but it feels like a knife. It's sharp and stabbing. And, there's a whole bunch of other issues that go with nerve damage, neurological injury.
Okay.
But it was just any sort of sensation or function. There was no prognosis. There was no sort of treatment plan. It was, hey, here's a wheelchair brochure. Pick out your size, pick out your colors. We'll get you sized up. And your life, you can expect to spend the rest of your life in a wheelchair.
And we're going to talk about that as well, just how you turned your mindset to positivity, even competing as a wheelchair athlete. But one thing that is remarkable to me is they said 2% chance, yet you walked onto the TED stage to deliver your speech. And just tell us how you went from what the doctors said, the prognosis that they gave you, to where you were when you walked across that stage.
It feels like multiple lifetimes as a journey, honestly. But my biggest thing was that at the time of my injury, I was 16 years old. It was about 2 or 3 weeks before my 17th birthday. I was in the best shape of my life. Of course, I was racing at the highest level, the highest amateur level. So I ate, breathed, and slept racing. That's all I knew. I was a racer, and that was my function for life. So when I got hurt, I kind of looked back across all of the previous injuries I've had. And up until that time, I had my knee fully reconstructed twice. I broke my ankle, I broke my tib, I broke my ribs, I broke my back already previously. I had 3 compression fractures. I had 4 bulging discs. I had a pinched nerve, all at the age of 11. I had actually fractured C1 at another time, multiple concussions, bleeding on the brain. I've broken my wrist, my fingers, I've broken.
You must really love racing.
It is a beautiful sport, but it's really dangerous, unfortunately. And, it kept me out of trouble growing up, and it really gave me a sense of purpose, a sense of drive. And I really learned a lot about determination and discipline through racing as well. So, injuries are a part of the sport, but what I always ended up seeing and how my journey went was that whenever I got hurt, I lost, let's say, a year of competition. I lost 6 months of racing, training. But when we came back, my family and I, because there was nobody else, it was just my dad, my sister, my mom, and myself. That was our whole team. I didn't have any riding coaches. I didn't have any personal trainers. I only actually had a personal trainer the year before I got hurt in 2012. So it was all of our own doing. And when we were coming back from injury, we actually came back stronger every time. So all of my competitors, all of my friends that were racing, they maintained good health. They did not really have the same levels or the seriousness of my injuries. But when we came back, we were already right at their level. And then very shortly, we were a step ahead. And then we were going to bigger and faster races, racing against better competition. So we learned a lot through all of these injuries with my sister, Dr. Kat, with all of her education. We really got a good understanding of how to heal the body and what is required to allow your body to overcome these injuries. So when I got dealt this devastating blow of news that I was going to spend the rest of my life in a wheelchair, and I'm only 17 years old, 16, I looked back on my experiences and all of those injuries, and I thought, okay, well, if I was able to overcome all of that, and if we were able to get back to not just regular function, we were actually, being a high performer. What is this? We'll apply those same strategies. We'll apply the same techniques to this injury. And maybe I won't be running marathons again. Sure. Maybe I'm not going to be doing box jumps. Sure. But hey, maybe I'll be able to walk. Maybe I'll be able to drive. Maybe even if I can stand and use a walker, that's better than a wheelchair. If I have to use a cane for the rest of my life, oh man, a cane beats a wheelchair any day of the week.
Nice. I love that. You're looking at the possibility of positivity. I always say that to people that I speak to. And even though you might not regain 100% of who you were just looking at what could you regain.
Of course.
Now, having knowledge of your TED talk, I love an aspect that you talk about when it comes to visualization and how that played a part in your healing with the help of your sister. Um, Tell me more about that and how that helped you.
Amazing. I just want to go back to one thing that you said about the possibilities. I was fresh from getting transferred from the US to Canada. I was still in the ICU at Master Children's Hospital. Obviously, I'm, nothing. I could put a fork in my leg, in my body, nothing. Don't feel no sensation, no function. And I'm already looking at ways to modify my motorcycle so that if I don't get back to walking again, hey, I can still ride and enjoy my motorcycle. If I can't, drive with my legs, okay, how can I modify my manual transmission vehicle so that I can have, the clutch and the shifting gears and maintain still that same enjoyment of life. So just because we've sustained these injuries or we have these difficulties along our path, we might not get back to 100% function, but there are certainly ways that we can modify the things that we're missing so that we can maximize our enjoyment and our use out of those things. And then in terms of visualization, I mean, Dr. Kat, my sister, she got me on visualization when I was pretty young, about 11 years old. At 11, I broke my back for the first time. It was by far the most severe injury to date. My parents sat me down. They told me that they didn't want me to race, that this is dangerous, that I need to think about the long term. Of course, that I've done enough in the sport. They are supporting me leaving and retiring from the sport.
Of course.
But yeah, hey, I don't blame them, right? But I was obviously still driven. I could see a future, and I wanted it more than I wanted to be able to breathe. Every single day I was working on ways how to get, how to be faster on my motorcycle, how to have more cardio, how to have more strength, how to improve my technique, how do I even improve my my visual skills and my eye movements and my reaction times. So I learned to be able to visualize my racing at a young age, and that became immensely successful. That became a huge part of my success, I would say. I was able to go to different tracks. I was able to be on track for the first time, and I was able to keep up with the local riders, even the owners of the track. Give it another half day, and we are just as fast, if not faster, than all these other riders. Normally, that is, a very difficult task to do. But we were able to do that. We were able to race across different divisions, across different disciplines, different styles, whether it was motocross, supercross, arena cross, GNCCs, GPs, enduros. We did a variety of different racing, which we were successful in all of them. And then,
I guess normally most people pick one of those types of races and becomes expert at that type. Whereas
correct, yeah, one or two
cross disciplines, right?
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, the way that we always looked at it, this is thanks to my dad, was he said the bike is an extension of your body. If you're able to be comfortable in the mud, rain, snow, if you're able to be good in the hail or when it's dark or light, like if you're able to be comfortable and to be, in control of your motorcycle in all of these different scenarios, then when it comes time to, racing this one discipline where you only have to tackle one or two of those, challenges, you have a whole variety of skills that you can rely on to be successful. So that obviously transferred into my rehabilitation, into my injuries, where I had these injuries, whether it's broken bones or knee surgeries or different ligament damages. There was no hesitation, there was no wavering that I would not be able to perform at my best. I always believed, I always visualized, I saw myself in the future competing again, racing again, being successful, and not allowing these injuries to hold me back. Really, not even down the road. Like these are cured, these are healthy. The bones get fixed, the ligaments repair themselves, the surgery takes place. We are back to being a high performer, full functioning athlete. So I carried that on into my paralysis, into my spinal cord injury, traumatic brain injury, where I knew that the longest distance that my nerve had to regrow was down to my toe. So if I figured I'd start from my toe, work my way up, at least then it should, in theory, become easier because you're getting closer and closer to, to the top half of your body, to the non-injured part of your spine. So I started with visualizing my toe to twitch and move, kind of like the Kill Bill movie with Irma Thurman, and that allowed me to get that slight movement and to really work and hone in with the meditation that I was doing, with the visualization, all of the different sensory inputs that we were doing. And once I got that first twitch, an uncontrollable twitch in my toe, I knew, okay, game on. We've gotten this far. We've done the impossible. We've got it to go like this uncontrollably once. Let's now
wiggle that big toe,
over and over again.
Okay. That's amazing. And we'll talk about the length of this process. Like, is this over the course of a few days, weeks, and how many hours a day are you spending doing this? Because at this point, you're still, I'm assuming, paralyzed, you're in a bed doing this visualization. What kind of time frame are you talking here?
So this time, I am not in the ICU, but I'm in just the regular medical ward at McMaster. It is about 3 weeks after my injury, let's say 4 weeks, and I'm able to start getting my toe to twitch and move uncontrollably. I would be concentrating on it for about 30 minutes, and after 30 minutes, it would finally just do one of those, and then I would have to reset. And again, it would take me 30 minutes of concentration and focus, laser eyesight right on my toe. That's all I'm thinking about. And I'm straining, I'm sending as much energy and effort down my spine as I can. So about 4 weeks where I got my toe to twitch and move uncontrollably. From there, I was able to then get my knee to extend. So if someone came over and was to hold up the underside of my knee, support that, I was able to then lift my foot to the ceiling. Even if it was a couple inches, I could do that at about the 6-7 week range. It's interesting though, of course, with neurological damage, with nerve damage, every body is different. Every injury is different. Every healing time and the way that the body heals is different. So for example, what's interesting for myself is that my left leg regained function much quicker than my right leg, but the sensation was absolute garbage. My left leg, I couldn't feel. I couldn't even feel touch. I couldn't feel like sharp, dull, hot, cold. I couldn't feel any sort of, touch on my left leg, even though I could get, some movement. Whereas my right leg, I could start regaining sensations. I could start telling, okay, you're pushing on my thigh. You're pushing on over here on my quad. You're pushing on, we started working on proprioception. I had no proprioception. Proprioception means that you know where your body is in space. If you close your eyes and you put your hand above your head, you know your hand is above your head, or if you now put it beside your body or behind your back, you know where your body is in space without looking at it. Yeah. I lost all of that. So I couldn't tell whether my toe was up or down, whether, the last where I saw my leg was where my body thought my leg was. So if I look down and my legs are completely twisted up backwards, I think that they're still all good and everything is normal, right? But wow. I toss and turn in the night, and all of a sudden I look down and my legs are completely intertwined, and they feel like they're just lying normally. So it was interesting that my right leg, and still is very slow function-wise, but the sensation is much, much better. Whereas my left leg, I was able to regain function much quicker, but the sensation still to this day is altered, different, and poor. So overall, I was able to get transferred from McMaster Children's Hospital to the Hamilton General Rehab, which is an inpatient rehab program. And there is really when I started making the biggest progress in my rehabilitation. So I was able to start getting into the balance bars, into the weight-assisted treadmills. I was able to get on to the ellipticals, into the bicycles, and all of these different stim programs and electric stim machines that they had available as well. So I was able to even stand for the first time with my first day of transfer. But when I say stand, 95% of my weight is in my arms, holding my body up, with two therapists holding my knees straight, because as soon as they let go, my knees just buckle. So in theory, I was able to stand, but it wasn't like a true, the true ability to stand.
Unsupported.
Yeah,
Even
unsupported.
this, though, the doctors must have found remarkable, considering they gave you a 2% chance, right? To even
Yeah.
at this point.
It was pretty crazy. I gotta say that even before my transfer, I had multiple doctors, multiple neurologists come over, even wake me up in the middle of the night just to be like, "Hey, I heard you can actually move your leg. Do you mind showing me?" And I'm like, "Doc, it's 6 a.m." I'm like, "I'm so
I'm trying to
busy."
sleep here. Get out of here.
Yeah, come on, what are we talking here? And he was like, "But my shift is ending in 30 minutes. I just want to be able to see, because this is impossible, right?" So then I'm like, okay, so then 30 minutes of concentration and I can get my toe to move. And he's like, "Holy smokes, that's amazing," like just blown away at the possibility,
That
which,
must be pretty cool feeling to amaze doctors and defy expectation, eh?
yeah, I don't know whether I was more impressed or whether I was more, dare I say, disappointed in the lack of belief. Because I said from the very beginning, and I know, again, everybody is different, every injury is different, but I had such strong belief, and I knew that from my previous experiences that I was able to overcome such devastating injuries, that this was just simply another hurdle. And, I honestly, I didn't even order a wheelchair from, through my whole injury. I didn't order a wheelchair for myself. I was able to find, actually, shout out to an organization called For the Needy, Not the Greedy, which I believe that they've shut down their main location now, but they run a secondhand medical equipment warehouse where they have anything under the sun that is for accessibility or mobility or any assistive devices. So we actually went to them and we purchased a secondhand wheelchair, because I didn't want to get attached. I didn't want to have something for myself. I simply saw it as a tool that I would use this for, let's say, 6 months. I would use this for a year, and then I would be able to give it back to them for someone else to use, because I would no longer need it. So even the doctors were kind of upset with my parents, to being like, "You're not going to modify your home. You're not going to install a lift for your son to get upstairs. Like, what? Like, you got to do this for your son." My parents are like, "No, like, he'll figure out a way. Like, it'll be fine. Like, you just watch. Like,
So your whole family believed, which was good. Your whole
yeah."
family.
We never saw it as a destination. We saw it as a pit stop, but not a final destination.
Amazing. And then this is all. I mean, you're not even 20 yet, right? And you're thinking this way.
17 years old.
Yeah. And I guess the credit belongs to your sister, your family, your past experience of overcoming. What do you give the most credit to have that kind of belief, like right off the get go? Is it what gave you that kind of belief at 17 years old, right?
Um, I would say that it's my Polish thick skull for being stubborn, honestly. But it's my family and my support system. First off, my racing career, racing for 11 years, growing up in the city, getting to the point of qualifying to the biggest amateur arena cross race in the world, getting the opportunity to race the same night as the pros. What's televised on TV? I'd be racing the same night or the next night or the night prior, the same weekend on the same track. I wouldn't have been able to do that as a kid, going to French immersion school every day in person, getting bused an hour away, 2 hours away, living in the city. The closest track was an hour and a half. My parents had to take a second mortgage to allow to buy all the equipment and the trailer and the truck and all the bikes and everything like that. So it wouldn't be possible to do it without them, just for that one career path. It wouldn't have been possible for me to overcome my spinal cord injury, traumatic brain injury, to get to the point that I was able to walk onto the TED stage and, continue my racing career, and to be able to be here now speaking to you and have use of my body and my lower half wouldn't be possible without them either. The wheelchair basketball career that I had after my injury wouldn't have been possible without their support. I wasn't able to drive myself. I got my license taken away. And, to completely learn a new sport, we bought basketball nets. We went, we went to all these tournaments. We went to PEI, to Montreal. We were traveling across Canada, with the wheelchair basketball team, to allow me the best support and the best team that I could grow and develop my skills. Wouldn't have been possible without them. Fast forward now, building racing cars, getting back into the motorsports side of things wouldn't have been possible without them either. I mean, it all gets sort of weaved into it, that your family and your support system and the people that you have around you by far is the most important thing. Because without them, as soon as you start to have a breakdown, as soon as I started to question myself as, damn, maybe this is a little bit more challenging than I thought. Maybe this is, more long-term than what I was expecting it to be. That's when they come in, and that's when they step up to the plate to be like, hey, it's all good, nothing but love. We're here for you. You're going to do this. We believe in you. We're going to, support you, whether it's, whatever avenues it takes. We are going to do the necessary things so that you have a better quality of life, better, happiness and joy out of what you do in your life. And obviously you maintain your physical health and your mental health.
And that's so key. I mean, there have been so many studies that show that now it's documented that the top predictor of resilience, your ability to bounce back, is the quality of your support system. And it's been documented, and you're living proof that that is absolutely true. Just having those people around you so that when you're weak, they can be your strength. One thing that I found very interesting that you said is you knew the wheelchair was just going to be a stepping stone to you getting back up and walking and racing again. Yet in that period when you did have to use a wheelchair, you still said, how can I excel in this area? And you started to play wheelchair basketball. I think that's phenomenal that you knew in your mind, not only that you're going to be past this, but while you're here, you're going to make the best of every single stage that you're at. And I know that story from before. We've had a lot of conversations, but I don't know if I've ever told you that I'm super impressed with that element of you. You almost went to the Olympics. Is that?
I got invited to be on Team Canada for the Junior Paralympic team. And again, I'm very grateful, very blessed. It's the lessons that I learned, the people that I met. I was actually even just speaking about it this weekend with a friend of mine. And I was telling him that the strongest people that I've ever met were those athletes from I played briefly wheelchair tennis, but then I got more serious into wheelchair basketball. But those individuals, those athletes, the coaches, the helpers, those people there, incredibly strong. The strongest people that I've ever met, the most beautiful stories of the highest of highs and the lowest of lows. And at the end of the day, nothing but love and gratitude. They gave everybody the same smile. They shook everybody's hand. They looked them in the eyes. They just had this warm aura around them of gratitude that, that there's a saying that I heard recently that the worst thing that ever happened to you was the worst thing that ever happened to you. So for the people who have suffered these disabilities, who have suffered these injuries, whether you were born with a disability or whether you had an injury or an amputation or anything like that, a motor vehicle accident, perhaps an illness, an injury, every day after that is a blessing. Every day is a beautiful day because we're still here, we're still alive. Even though we may be a little bit restricted, we may have to modify some tasks. Every day is a beautiful day because we get to spend another day here with our family, with our friends, with nature, with the sunshine, with the birds, and for that we have to be grateful.
Absolutely. You couldn't have said it better myself. And you have this gratitude, you have this aura about you, and you've walked again. You were able to tell your story on a stage. So you are now you get out of the wheelchair. You're walking again. Tell me about what happened when you resumed your racing career and how that looked differently from before the injury.
Mm-hmm. So I transitioned from 2 wheels to 4 wheels with my injury. I still ride, believe it or not, actually at the 8-month anniversary of my injury, the same year, 2012, from March, 8 months fast forward. It was the first time that I got on my motorcycle again. My dad helped me get on the motorcycle. He put it in first gear and I was able to ride up and down the driveway. And then when I slowed down, he helped me slow down and helped me off the motorcycle and all that. So I still ride to this day. It is by far the best therapy and the best rehab I have found for my body, just because of course it is a whole body exercise. All that muscle memory is kicking in, the neuroplasticity kicks in. I feel at home, even though I have, a foot or over a foot of rods in my spine, even though I have these neurological injuries. I still feel at home and I feel 100% comfortable when I am on my motorcycle. But if it is too risky, I have broken bones and had injuries in the past where they weren't my fault, whether they were rocks, breaking my fingers and hands from the roost, or whether it was another competitor landing on me and breaking bones. You know, there are other risks besides just yourself. So I figured, well, with age, get a cage. Why don't we add 2 wheels? Why don't we add 6 seat belts? Why don't we add a big roll cage, an exoskeleton? Why don't we, add a fire extinguisher? Why don't we add all of the safety things? And then at least I can still enjoy, my calling as I like to see it. So I transitioned from my wheelchair to a walker, to then a 4-post cane, to 2 canes, to 1 cane, to then using no assisted devices, the same way that I transitioned with my driving. I got my license revoked, I got my license back. I had to redo all the testing from the ground up with hand controls. I had to spend thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars on getting a new vehicle that would be automatic so I could install these hand controls. I drove with that with my hands. Then I eventually started being able to drive with my feet, where I was able to teach myself how to drive with my feet without the hand controls. Then I taught myself how to drive manual transmission again. And then I sold everything and I bought modded out Japanese Honda Civic imported from Japan that was manual transmission. So I basically went from, 0 to hero pretty quick. And at that point, obviously, as soon as I started driving stick, I was like, you know what? Let's get our hands wet and get our hands dirty with auto racing. So with my dad's help, we chose a platform, figured out what was good, what was bad, and we started building from there. We turned his little regular garage into a full-blown race shop. We currently have 2 hoists going, tire changers, wheel balancers, sheet metal benders, welders. We've got all the tools of the trade, and we've built a number of race cars out of that shop, and a whole even more daily drivers as well. But it was pretty challenging, honestly, because I wasn't sure whether I could trust my legs, because of course everything, your gas, brake, clutch, everything is going through your legs. And in the car, it's not like driving on the street. You're getting thrown left to right. The speeds are high. While I'm racing at Mosport, my top speed is 200 kilometers an hour. My lowest speed is about 80. But in a corner, mid-corner, well, my steering wheel is fully like this, wide open on the throttle. My fastest speed is 107. So, my corner speed is really freaking crazy, and you're going inches from a guy to your left, inches from a guy to your right. There's 2 cars in front of you. There's a car behind you. Like, you're in a whole pack, like Formula One style, where, you're racing for position. So it really took me a little bit of time to be able to trust my legs, to gain that reaction time where I could be comfortable on the track, and not only just comfortable, but safe. I don't want to injure myself. I even more so don't want to injure anybody else. And of course, mistakes happen, things happen, people crash. You have tire failures and these types of things that can cause incidents. But I wouldn't want to hurt myself or anybody else with my own inability or with my own, physical problems. So first, I had to make sure that my body was adequate for, being behind the wheel, going crazy fast, racing door to door, doing all these things. So I started off obviously just lapping, just tracking, getting myself comfortable. I spent about, 6 months, let's say, from my initial start to getting out on track and getting to a point where I'm like, okay, we're race ready. For the first year of my auto racing career, I raced Time Attack at a club called Ontario Time Attack. I ended up winning the junior or the novice championship that year, and I finished second in GT2 by 0.3 points, which I was very upset about. We had multiple engine failures. We learned so much. But again, that was a great entry into what it would be like to be behind the wheel. And of course, I'm already outfitted my car with a roll cage, the 6 seat belts, the fire suppression system, the window netting, all of the safety equipment that was actually not required for this racing series. But with me having rods in my spine, I knew that I wanted to be extra safe.
Yeah.
And then from there, I progressed pretty much right into wheel-to-wheel racing, which is door-to-door racing, similar to Formula One or the or the European World Championships. And with that style of racing, you need a racing license. So I had to go through a medical exam. I had to go through a written exam and then 2 in-car evaluations just to be able to say that I'm certified, that I have my regional racing license, and I'm safe to go out on track with cars that cost as much as my house does. So that was a little bit of a hurdle. Just obviously, I was nervous about the rods in my spine. I was nervous about the balance testing, the strength testing, everything that the doctor was doing. I had to go to an optometrist, check my eyes. I had to check again like a full physical, to be able to race. The written exam was pretty straightforward, and then obviously just the in-car evaluations to make sure that I'm aware of what the proper track etiquette is, who has the right of way in this particular situation, so that again, you're racing against 40, 50 cars at the same time on one track. So you've got to have eyes everywhere, right?
Yeah.
And as you would imagine for this style of racing, you need to have the roll cage. You need to have, your car goes through, I would say, a more intense tech inspection than the medical inspection was, or at least adequate, right? You have to go through a medical and your car has to go through a tech inspection where they check every little thing to make sure that, again, at speeds of, the fastest guys on track are going 350 kilometers an hour. Wow. So for those guys, every single nut and bolt, everything has to be made sure that it's not going to fall off, because at those speeds, not good.
It's devastating if that
devastating, yeah.
And are you still doing that now? Your garage is converted, or your dad's garage is converted. Is that still what's going on now with you? You're still racing?
I am at this time with COVID-19, with everything going on in the world. Racing is a little bit changed. I took last year off. I actually ended up having a lung collapse and needing lung surgery in 2020. March of 2020, just as COVID-19 was fully erupting everywhere.
Oh, wow.
So last year was a complete write-off for myself. This year, it is a financial write-off because, as you can imagine, racing is pretty expensive. And I'm not ready just yet with my physical health, with where I am in my life right now. My dad's garage is actually expanding. We're building it even bigger. I'm converting my own garage into a proper workstation as well. So we're pursuing different avenues, but we have to take this year to rebuild, get ourselves straight before we can continue on down the road with racing.
And that, even the fact that you're where you are now, and then, like you said, with the collapsed lung, one thing I found interesting is that your parents, when you had all these injuries, they tried to gently persuade you not to do this, but they saw that you called it your calling. So they supported you regardless. Obviously, your dad is converting his garage. So, I mean, that's more than you can ask for from parents, I think, right? I mean,
absolutely.
They support you, even though they fear for your safety sometimes. They know that it's your passion. Why do you use the word calling? And the reason I'm asking that is because a lot of times people will say, oh, my calling is to, grow a church or help people or be a speaker. How does racing, I have never heard it from an athlete, say that this is my calling? Why do you use that word?
So for me to say that motorsports racing is my calling, I have to take you back to the very beginning of time. At the age of 8 months old, my dad bought an electric 3-wheeled motorcycle. And he put me on it because he was a big moto head. He's a big, motorcycle and automotive enthusiast. He's a auto mechanic by trade and a millwright by trade. And so he put me on this electric motorcycle. I was actually so small that I couldn't reach the pedals to control, stop the gas and brake. So he took off the battery and I had to sit on a towel on the battery and then ride this thing. But at 8 months old, I was able to follow a track, stop when I was told to stop. I was able to fully control and be aware of my lefts and rights and stopping and starting. My parents would take me for a walk and I would ride the motorcycle, that electric motorcycle, 3-wheeled, and I would ride it around, and then, they would walk beside me. At 2.5, I was riding a 2-wheel bicycle, jumping off curbs, doing wheelies, trying to build jumps with my friends, with my dad, all these different things. So already at 2.5, fully comfortable on 2 wheels. Fast forward at the age of 6, I get a motorcycle for my 6th birthday. The the following weekend without, I'm wearing skiing goggles and I don't have gloves because my hands are so small. I've got boots, a jersey, and a pants and a helmet pretty much, right? We just show up and we're like, hey, what do we do? We're here to race. It's our first time. What do we do? And I finished 9th out of 10. I pretty much fell every corner, but hey, I beat one other person. So, it's no joke when I say that I was hooked immediately. And ask any other motocross or motorcyclist, they say that you get bitten by the bug and it stays in your blood forever. So I have goosebumps just thinking about it. But I mean, I was involved at such a young age. I was, my soul is happy when I'm on two wheels. My soul's happy when I'm racing my car as well. But I've gotten for example, this year I'm riding my bike a lot more. It's a larger part of my rehabilitation program, and honestly, there is no comparison. I mean, when I'm on two wheels, my soul is 10 out of 10, 11 out of 10. When I'm in my car, let's say it's like a 9 out of 10. But it's the same feeling. So when I say that it's my calling, I mean I was born into it. I kind of say, I showed skill and talent from a young age of being able to control my balance and to be, aware of what the racing line in this corner is, or if you're trying to, do this course in a fast pace, where do you want to have your balance? Where do you want to have this? I've through my 11-year motocross racing career, I went to one schooling session, which was like a 5-day course at this one family's house. And that was it. 11 years, no education. Everything that I learned was either through myself, through my dad. With my automotive racing, the same thing. I had basically to go through my driving course to get my racing license, but that's as far as my education goes. I've gotten to such a huge level with my motocross career. In my auto career, we've won 3 championships in 3 years, 34 races won. So, we've done a lot of things. But there's no comparison as to how my soul feels when I'm behind the wheel, when I'm getting ready for competition. Because I know that the way that I look at it, there's a lot of moving pieces. There is the preparation that is involved for your equipment. So the relationship that I have with, the pieces of metal that are in my garage, known as my motorcycle and as my race car, like I have a connection, I have a relationship with them. It's a love-hate relationship. I give them love, they break down, I get angry, I fix them, they run good. Then there's the preparation of myself as well, because I know it's, I have to have my cardio in place. I have to have my nutrition, my weight in place. I know that I have to have my strength in place. I mean, on a motorcycle, you're getting thrown left, right, and center. You're getting thrown off the bike. We're doing jumps that are, 150 feet plus. We're jumping multiple stories in the air. The track's rough. We're racing in the snow and the mud. It's a very physical sport. So your physical health is very important. With racing cars, also your physical health is important. Even with my Honda Civic race car at I would consider it low speeds, mid-corner, 170 kilometers an hour, I'm experiencing 2.5 Gs of force laterally. So 2.5 Gs of force times of gravity, I'm getting thrown out the car in the corner. So it's so much so that my legs try to slip off the pedals. It wants to like literally throw me out of the seat. So
just give us the comparison. Like what G's do we normally feel when we drive, or what can we compare it to? As far as
1 G of force is the force of gravity. So if you jump up and jump down, that's basically 1 G of force.
Okay.
Under normal driving conditions, if you experience 1 G under braking or 1 G in a corner laterally, that is like max 10. Like holy smokes! If you experience 1,
okay.
We're experiencing 2.5, and that's obviously with more speed, with more a higher level of car build as well, better performance parts, that only goes up. So again, it takes a toll even on your breathing, right? I mean, when you're braking and when you're, under braking, I'm experiencing 1 to 1.5 Gs of force. So again, that pressure on your chest, you're getting thrown forward. You're then all of a sudden getting shifted to the side. You're then, bouncing back. You're changing the corner to the other side. You're accelerating. There's a lot of things to consider. But I just always have enjoyed that whole process, getting my equipment ready, getting my body ready. Of course, with racing as well, whether it's moto or auto, you need a team as well. So it's organizing, whether it's Dr. Cat or whether it's my parents or whether it's, you know, my family or friends. I'm getting kind of everybody situated. So you almost kind of have to play multiple roles. Of course, if you can focus on only being the driver and the racer, it makes things a lot easier. You don't have to focus on the mechanics, and you don't have to physically be welding and fixing your car, you know, building your car. You don't have to be physically organizing all the parts and going and getting them and then organizing the people and installing the tires and doing all these things. You know, if you can focus on just being that, it's beneficial. But in my situation, as with most amateurs, at least who don't have a financial backing, you have to take on everybody's role.
You
right?
take on multiple roles. It's kind of
part of everybody.
As a speaker, I do more, you know, I do my lead generation, my calls, my marketing, and that type of thing. I mean, it's not a different world altogether, but I get what you're saying. I mean, you're a self-employed driver, so you're doing a lot of this yourself. A question: I have never interviewed a race car driver, so does this make regular driving boring to you?
I'll just say that when you go from driving at those crazy speeds, and then when you're driving home after the weekend is done and you're pulling your car or your trailer or doing whatever, and you're driving 100 down the highway, you're like, holy smokes. You're like,
it's not boring.
this is like, what are we in slow motion here? 120 frames per second? Like, what's going on here?
Well, thank you for doing it on a supervised track, unlike some of these young kids that, you know.
I don't condone street racing. It is highly frowned upon. Honestly, if you want to go fast, if you want to do these things, please take it to a track. That is the safest, the best way. And also too, all of us deal with anxiety. All of us deal with pressure. Why do you want to go and do stupid shit, pardon my language, on the roads when your anxiety and stress is through the roof because you're like, oh crap, if I get caught, there goes my driver's license for what, 5-10 years? Yeah. Whereas if you go to the track, they encourage it. They're like, hey buddy, if you can go faster, go faster. You want to send it sideways, you want to start, do it up. Like, you know what I mean? Like, everybody is there to support. You're not going to get in trouble. You can break your car. You can do whatever. You can experience the highs, the lows. You can do whatever you want without any stress that you're going to get in trouble for what you're doing.
Well, thank you for that public service announcement, because it's so important. And I suspect that anyways. I mean, I'm sure all the professionals that you race with, they probably look down at street racers like they're giving us a bad
100%.
Right? So
it's giving us a bad rap, honestly. And even like all the restrictions on modifying cars, for example. You know, all these kids think that this is the Toronto takeovers. All this is all cool, right? We're going to go block off an intersection, do a whole bunch of donuts. And then it's us who are car enthusiasts who, yeah, I have a modified, you know, exhaust system. I have different wheels. I have different suspension. Sure, I am enjoying my vehicle. You know, it is according to the MTO and it is according to spec. But then there's my friends who have the same types of setup or the similar, you know, enthusiast vibes, where we get pulled over and then we get tickets for having these things done to our vehiel, which is perfectly
group you in the same category, right?
And they're just trying to group us all into one thing and break us down because these guys in these Toronto takeovers are doing these stupid shits. Like, yeah. It doesn't make any sense. You're ruining it for everybody.
It's almost like you need a card, like professional driver card. your pro card. So when the cop stops you, like, listen, I'm not like those assholes. Here's my card. I'm a pro. You know?
Hey, that could be beneficial. I think
it would be as a former police officer. If I, you know, see your car jacked up, I'll be honest. If I was on the roads, I might stop you, pull you over, look at something. But if you had showed me a card saying, "Hey, listen, I'm Pauly, I'm a pro driver," I'm like, okay, cool. Sorry, I had you grouped in the wrong group there.
Yeah. Hey, fair enough. You make a good point. But honestly, the thing about going to the track is that when you exert all of your energy and you get it all out of your system, when you're at the track, on the way home, you're driving the speed limit, you know, you're taking your sweet time, you're driving in the right lane, you're letting people pass you, like, you are a different type of driver at that point. And honestly, every single racer says the same thing, that when they're going to the track, so they say that when you're driving to the track, to the 10-year event, usually it's like a Friday, Saturday, Sunday event. When you're driving to the track, you're driving the second fastest the weekend you're going to drive, because you're getting there, you're excited, you're ready to go. You're usually running a little bit late, so you got to make it for driver's meeting. You still got to sign in, right? You're racing the weekend, balls to the wall, wide open, as fast as she'll go. You know what I mean? You are wide open all the time. And then when you're driving home, you're that grandma driving in the right lane, driving the
But both
speed.
times you're obeying the speed limit, but you're
Of course.
limit to the speed limit,
Of
but you're
course, of course.
constantly in the right lane on the way home, right?
Exactly. But you are driving so much more calm because, again, you're tired. You've got it all out of your system. You don't have to prove to anybody. A hot shot pulls up in an Infinity beside you. Yeah, sure. Go ahead. Like, I got nothing to prove. I got my race car that'll blow your car out of the water in the trailer. It's so fast, it's not even legal for the road.
Yeah.
So, like, what are we talking here? What am I trying to prove?
Yeah.
So
I think that's important to mention, right? Because we have these energies inside of us, and whether we have mental health issues like both of us have had in the past, or we are pursuing a passion, you have an energy that you want to get out, and in your case, you get it out on the track, and that's your energy. Your soul is on fire. Your soul's lit up, and you go out and you race, and you release that energy into your passion. It's important for people to find that. I always compare it to MMA because I watch MMA fighting, and
yeah,
a lot of those guys, you meet them at the bar, they're the coolest guys. Right? It's like, hey, how you doing? Da, da, da. And people will bump them in the club, and they're like, oh, whatever, because
yeah.
they got out that energy in the cage. And so
Mhm.
at the club, if someone wants to step up to them, they're like, you know what? You can step aside. I'm chill. And that's what I think of when I think of you driving home. You got it out of your system. You have nothing to prove. There's no ego. Your soul's happy, and you're good. I want to ask you, I mean, you had it from birth. And what advice would you have for anybody, if any, on how they can kind of find something that they're passionate about? Maybe something that kind of lights their soul up a little bit if they weren't, put on a bike at 8 months old like you were.
Trial and error, honestly. So I have a cousin, and she was a multi-time Canadian champion in tennis. And it took her a little while to find tennis. So we're Polish. She's my cousin. I'm Polish. She's Polish, right? But we are constantly, trying to, like, my parents left communist Poland to try to get a better life for their children, for myself and Dr. Kat. So the same thing with her parents. They came here to Canada. They're looking for a better opportunity, better longevity, all these different things. So they wanted to get their daughter, my cousin, into some sort of sport, teach her discipline, teach her dedication, get her physically active as well, show her what the benefits are of being healthy and fit. So to find something that she was passionate in and that what she enjoyed to do, they tried every sport under the sun. They tried hockey, they tried basketball, they tried baseball, they tried, everything. And then one of the last ones they tried was tennis. And all of a sudden something just clicked. My cousin was enthused. She was like, this is the one. I love this. Find so much enjoyment out of this. And then, like my parents, they went head first into everything. They signed her up for classes. They went her to tournaments. They did all these things. She got a scholarship to Georgia to university, all of these other things. And she became a multi-time Canadian champion because her parents allowed her to try different things, allowed her to explore what is she like. And they never frowned upon anything either. They weren't like, the traditional sport parent who was like, hey, my kid, I played basketball, my kid's going to play basketball and he's going to love it because I love basketball. You know what I mean?
Yep.
There's so many racers that I know that are in the sport for that same very reason as well, where they were like, my dad loved to race. Now I love to race because he loves to race. But again, there was no criticism. There was no judgment. They were open to any sport, any discipline. They just simply wanted to provide their daughter with the skills and the valuable life lessons of what it would take to be successful in sport, to learn dedication, to learn discipline, to learn time management, to learn, healthy habits and exercise and all of these other things. So I was fortunate enough that racing is my thing. I got onto a motorcycle. I always enjoyed racing bicycles. I even still after my injury now, I'm able to ride a unicycle. So being on, I always say being on two wheels, whether it's with an engine or without an engine, I love being on some sort of wheels, whether, driving trucks, pulling trailers, whatever it is, driving tractors. I just love being in command of some sort of machinery. And obviously that allows me to be creative, because the thing that I've really noticed the most lately, especially even after my lung collapse, because I had to take a huge step back from everything and really reassess what I'm doing with my life and what my future is going to hold, or how I want to, pursue my future. But I really found that that is a form of creativity. A lot of people don't think about sport as a creative endeavor, but it is 100% creativity. Me being on my motorcycle, I can choose whether I want to jump like this, whether I want to rail this corner like this. How do I want to brake? Do I want to brake extra with the front, with the rear? Do I want to slide the back? Do I want to, how far do I want to lean? Do I want to get through the mud or beside the mud? How do I want to do these things? And that is all my choice. Thinking about it when I was growing up and in the scene of becoming a professional racer, it was my job. It was, it was my passion, but it was a job. I am here to train because I'm here to win this tournament, this race, this championship. I'm here to get my pro racing license, do these things, get on a team, get these sponsors, be on TV. That's secondhand. But but even with the automotive scene as well, it is creative expression. Baseball, creative expression. Do you want to sprint here? Do you want to run here? How are you going to hit it? Are you going to hit infield? Are you going to hit it, home run? Are you going to, all of these other things? So I think that, I really encourage parents to allow their kids to try different things, find what they're passionate about, find what they're because I think that it kind of goes both ways. There's things that you're naturally good at, and then there's things that you enjoy. And if you can kind of overlap the two, even like if, the most famous, the GOAT, they call him, the greatest of all time motocross and supercross racer, Ricky Carmichael. He always said that his passion, his dream was to be a NASCAR driver or to be an auto racing driver. That's what he really wanted to do. But he was so good at racing bikes, and that he found, almost the same enjoyment out of racing bikes, where he was like, you know what? I'm going to do that later. I'm going to really put my youth, my energy, my skill and talent into this because I know that I can be successful, or at least I have a better chance of being successful. So again, if you can overlap what you're good at naturally and obviously what you're passionate about, what you find enjoyment out of, I think that that's a huge winning combination. So, keep trying different things. Think of sport as a creative expression as well, right? You're able to express yourself through your body. You're able to express yourself through your mind because of the way of how you, appreciate and how you sort of think of the game in your head. Like how are you playing? How are you playing on the court? How are you racing on the track? That is your mental creative expression, right? And then of course, at the end of the weekend, you have that fulfillment of using your body, right? How many times after a workout, you're like, oh man, I didn't want to work out today, but I feel so much better after that. And you feel 100%
of the time.
Exactly, that's what I mean. So when you're playing a sport, it's the same relief at the end of the day.
Yeah, I love the fact that you called it creative expression, because most times when you use that term, people think ballet or dance, moving along the whole lines, but
art, drawing,
sport, right? You have a choice of how you want to express how you ride the bike, how you want to shoot the basketball. In your cousin's case, is she focusing more on backhands or slices, or wanting to be what type of player? And it's so insightful to call it creative expression. I'm glad you did that. And I'm also glad that you gave that advice to parents. I'm a parent of a 2-year-old myself, and just to let him try things. And I was already heading down that road, but I'm glad that you brought it up. Let them try different things. Your cousin, it was her 5th or 6th sport before they found tennis,
exactly.
Or maybe even more. And getting out of that mindset of, I was good at this, so I want you to play this, almost like achieving the dream I never did. I never played any sports in school, so I don't have that hang up, but I know that some people do. One thing, an extension on what you said, is that a lot of times parents do follow that advice. I think a lot of parents are pretty progressive. Let my kids try things. Let them learn the importance of teams. Let them try fun things to learn their passion. I think that adults kind of forget to do that for themselves. And I don't know what you think about that, but I think that what I see is adults that can't find their passion, forgetting that same advice of trying different things. It doesn't have to be sports. It doesn't have to be for a reason, but just getting out, trying and failing at things can help you find something you're passionate about. And it doesn't have to be just because you're a child. You can do it as an adult as well. And it doesn't matter your age. So thank you for mentioning that. I really appreciate that.
Absolutely. And I'm only saying it because I find it to be true, and I believe it 100%. The expression is, you can't teach an old dog new tricks, but I mean, times are changing, our way of healing our bodies, our understanding of neuroplasticity and the way that the brain works is changing and evolving. So I think it goes kind of hand in hand. You mentioned that, when we become an adult, when we become older, we kind of get fixed in our ways, our patterns and routines kind of repeat themselves. But I find that it's important to still maintain that fun and that play, right?
Yeah.
I always see so many people, as they get older, they get more sedentary, they kind of get focused too much on their job. And I know, of course, having a job and maintaining an income and all these things, very important, very, very good. But it's important also to schedule, visits with friends. It's always important to, whether you like tennis just recreationally, go out and get some friends or find people who have similar interests, get out on a court and start playing, even playing tag or playing in the mud, going on a beach day, something like that, go riding your bicycles. Like there's so many different ways that we can kind of become more like the children, and we can allow the child inside of us to flourish a little bit more just by giving us the opportunity to play. And then I think that this leads me to another point. It allows us to get more into flow state as well. So with all of the avenues that I am pursuing, another avenue is enterprise stress management. Dr. Kat and I, we started a corporate stress management business. So recently, we actually, with one of our lectures, we were going over the importance of flow. And I think that they all tie in together because as we get older, we sort of lose our sense of play. We lose our sense of, adaptability. And then in that, we also kind of lose our sense of flow state. So if we're able to maintain our sense of play and creativity, we're able to then harness more of that flow state. When we're able to harness and get into more of that flow state, we're able to recharge our batteries. We're able to give off and work through all of our pent-up emotions. We're able to have a better sense of, understanding of ourselves. We're able to rebuild our sense of confidence. We're able to feel better about ourselves because that sense of play, that sense of social and community aspect with our friends, with our family, with our colleagues, teammates, tag players, let's say, beach goers, and then obviously that flow state, they all go hand in hand. They recharge our batteries and we're able to feel a little bit more comfortable in our own shoes and maintain that neuroplasticity, which I think is hugely important for maintaining long-term health.
Oh, absolutely. And as we're coming to the end here, I actually want to talk to you about that. Tell us what you're doing now, you and your sister. And it's funny because most people don't refer to their sisters as their title, but you always call her Dr. Kat. And she's awesome. She's great. Tell us what you're doing together with her to help organizations adopt some of the same mindsets you have.
So we've gone through a lot. Kat and I, all of our injuries, she's been my main physiotherapist. She's been my main personal trainer. She's been my person in my corner. So we've gone through all of these injuries together. I was the one, unfortunately, who had the broken bones, who had the cool casts, who went through the pain and suffering, but Kat was there right alongside of me, helping me through it, going to school. So she did her undergrad in kinesiology, master's in biomechanics, and then PhD in biomedical engineering. So all of the science she knows and has an understanding of, all of the latest, greatest research she is doing, she is reading, she's following. So what we were able to do through my 11-year motocross career, through my now 9-year rehabilitation from my spinal cord injury, traumatic brain injury, and in my latest 3-4 year in my auto racing career, all of those things that we were kind of doing subconsciously and without having a proper understanding of why we're doing them turned out to be really beneficial. And that is why we were able to be so successful in all of these different avenues. So we've created a corporation, a program, enterprise stress management, where we reach out to corporations and we try to help employees get a better understanding of their stress levels, and then have the proper tools and the ways to cope with these stressors. Stress can be present in many different ways. It can affect you in different ways. And we always think that, as we get older, we kind of always lose our sense of how we feel when we're, firing on all 10 cylinders, let's say. We always kind of forget how good we can actually feel. And we think that, to get back to, feeling a 10 out of 10, we need to either spend X amount of time or X amount of dollars, or there's all of these different avenues that we have to do. Whereas that is not the case. even simply doing breathing exercises, cold therapy, exercises, meditations, time blocking. There's many different, there's assisted programs if you're struggling on the computer. There's many different ways and avenues that you can pursue that are free, that are easy, that are convenient, that can help you with your stress levels. And the reason why we're targeting workplaces is because you have to go to work anyways.
Yeah.
So, if you're at home and then you have a child or two or three, and then you've got a spouse, and then you've got, grandparents, and you've got the house chores and errands, you're perhaps not all the way there, right? If we're able to connect with people while they're at work, while they have to be at work, while they're employed, and we're able to help the organization itself as a whole, then we're able to help the individuals within the organization. Technically, it should go the other way around. We start from the end and work on the way out. But if we're able to teach the individuals at the workplace how to better manage their stress, how to be more aware of their stress, how to recognize symptoms, be like, oh yeah, I do grind my teeth. Oh, perhaps, I did actually recognize that when this happens in my life, I then start to grind my teeth. Oh, my body is stressing. I have these neck tensions. I have shortness of breath. I have all of these different symptoms that I'm showing, which I would normally think is nothing or that is normal. That's actually caused by something. We eliminate that something, or we're able to tackle that something, get a better understanding of that. We're able to improve, the relationship side of the individuals. We're able to improve the family of the individual. We're able to improve the home dynamic of the individual. We're able to improve the work community and the workplace of the individual. We're able to make a sort of a wider spread impact on the community, as the country as a whole, by having a specific angle of targeting stress at the workplace. So that is our latest and greatest project that we are taking on.
And it sounds like it couldn't be at a better time, seeing the times that we're in right now. I want to thank you for your time, and I think you guys are a great team. I mean, you have self-education. Your sister has, letters and letters after her name, together with your life experience and her education. You have a lot of value to offer, and I'm glad to call you a friend. And thank you for coming on here. I want to just close off by, first of all, saying thank you, and secondly, saying, where can people find you online?
So I'm on social as Pauly Plewa 771, Pauly, Paul with a Y. I have my racing website as 771motorsports.com. 771 Motorsports is my race shop and race team. And then I am in the process of building as well my paulyplewa.com website. And actually on YouTube, I'm posting a whole bunch of vlogs, videos from my racing days, from my health journey as well, under 771 Motorsports. So if you want to follow along my journey, either look up my name or my race shop, and I will happily see you on there, folks.
Absolutely. Thank you for that. And as far as connecting with you for stress management or your sister, is there anything that we should know about for that?
EnterpriseStressManagement.com is our main website there. If you want to reach me at my email, which is my first name, Pauly, Pauly, at EnterpriseStressManagement.com is my work email there. And of course, again, if anybody is looking for any sort of lectures or any sort of help, I mean, it is a stressful time, as you mentioned, with COVID-19. Mental health is more in the news than ever before. And of course, we kind of got a wake-up call with this whole pandemic. So we're just trying to do our part. We're trying to help everybody feel a little better, work a little better, and obviously live a little better as well.
Awesome. Thank you for your time, and appreciate you being on here.
Thanks so much, Quasi. Nice to see you, and all the best in the future.